Hello and welcome to New Kids. In this podcast, I receive parents who live with intention. It's not about perfect parenting, it is about the questions that we are asking ourselves as we raise our children. Now, in 2025, we are curious, we're hopeful, we're caring people. If the conversation raises questions, great. Share them with me in the comments. If you liked it, share it with a couple parents out there and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite platform. And if you think of a couple I should definitely have on the podcast at some point, reach out. Okay, let's jump to episode 6. Today, I want you to meet the most experienced parents I've had on the pod so far. 17 years of parenting. As I was editing this episode, it struck me how both came out at peace and wise. As parents of young kids, we often are extremely ambitious and full of certainty, as if this is what we want for our kids and this is the plan. So I found their vulnerability and the depth of their experience really refreshing, humbling, and admirable. Please meet Sam and Simon, the parents of 3 children, aged 17, 15, and 11. Sam is the founder of Parent TV, one of the largest and most globally recognized Netflix for parenting resources. Also, she's recently produced a beautiful documentary called Seen that explores the transformative power of personal healing for parents and, that's important, its impact on parenting and child brain development. I highly recommend it to all the imperfect parents out there. Hi! I'll share the links in the description. Simon is a primary school teacher and a mental health advocate, acting as a region lead for Outback Futures, a non-for-profit focused on improving mental health and well-being in rural and remote communities in Queensland, Australia. Yeah, because they live in Australia. Together in this episode, we uncover a lot of different topics. The evolving roles of mom and dad over time in the family, the masculine archetype and the expectations to provide, the importance of hearing the child's voice from a very young age and making sure they know they're being listened to, the expectations with regard to school and sports, when should you push, when should you opt out, this kind of questions, the healing we must do to overcome our small and big traumas and become better parents. That's very much linked to Seen documentary. Yeah, because as the saying goes, you either face your demons or they raise your children. Your call. We talk about embracing pain and having each other's back as a couple, because healing is not easy and it's definitely better to have each other's support. We talk about navigating the messy middle of tech at home, particularly gaming and social media. And finally, we talk about their own recipe for a healthy relationship with tech tools for their children, which comes down to 3 basic things. First one is making sure that your kids know they're being loved no matter what and being heard. So a strong emotional bond with your children. Then the second one is offering exciting alternatives to tech. So for them, it's being involved in communities, being outdoors, meeting friends, working, helping. And the last one, raising awareness about the drug-like addiction of those tools, making sure they understand how the algorithm works, what's expected from them, and raising this awareness and keep doing so, even if the kids roll their eyes. So yeah, without further ado, please meet Simon, enjoy the conversation, and reach out. Cheers. So welcome, Sam and Simon. Very excited to have you today to talk about how you are raising your kids. So your kids are 17, 15, and 11 years old. You guys live in Brisbane, Australia. I heard about Sam through 2 friends of mine who went on this podcast, Yotam and Sandra. Sam, you're the founder of Parent TV, which is a streaming platform to help parents raise their children. But you have also a strong background in community building around parenting. And Simon, I'm super excited to meet you as well, to see the other half of, Sam, who's way more public probably, or maybe it's just that I haven't found you, Simon. So yeah, maybe Sam, if you can introduce Simon and vice versa, that would be awesome.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll introduce Sam. So Sam, I would say, in terms of what she does, is an entrepreneur. So very creative in terms of a business sense, and so she's got Parent TV, which is a parenting platform with a bunch of Australian and overseas parenting experts on that, and also out of that has made an amazing documentary called Scene, which is about the parenting journey, and just in general is very entrepreneurial. So has had various ideas and businesses she's made happen over the years, and is a great mum as well. Spends lots of good time with her kids. Yeah, just being with them, connecting with them. So, yeah.
When you say Sam is an entrepreneur, what comes with entrepreneur in terms of personality? So you mentioned creative.
Creative, persistent, unconditional positive self regard in terms of doing business and having an idea and seeing it to fruition, and resilience, I guess. Yeah.
And when you say great mom, what comes to mind specifically?
Well, connection. So her taking time with each of our kids once or twice a week to spend time with them and really connect with them and be patient and make sure she is connected, and keeping me in check about being connected rather than just being focused on cleaning up or all those kind of things. So yeah, really good mum in that sense.
That's beautiful. Would you want to add something about you, Sam?
Yeah, I think this is probably just all attached. I mean, they're all kind of positive things. Yeah. I'm a driver and a responsibility taker. And I mean, the world likes those people because they get stuff done. But I also have realized that in the past has come at a cost to me personally in terms of that. So, yeah, I think the Sam Simon talks about now is different to the Sam, 5, 6, 7 years ago. So now I'm all those things. I haven't always been all those things. That's been the work for me. But essentially, the framing that I have now for myself in terms of what's enough, just as a parent or partner or just anything, is like, do I care and am I trying? And I've always cared and I've always tried. So it's always been enough. And yeah, for me, I still care and I still try. So yeah, that's enough. So yes, I'm good and it's enough because I care and I try. The outcome doesn't actually matter. So yeah, I'm kind of talking in roundabouts maybe a little bit at the moment, but I struggle sometimes because I have been quite successful in some ways in my career and stuff that I've done for people to go, oh, that's who she is. And I'm always like, that's actually my pain. That is not actually what I want to be. So, who I actually am, I'm still on the journey of figuring out. But yeah, definitely connection, slowing down, finding myself more in the moment. They're all the things that I feel like is the Sam that I'm becoming, really wanting to actually put down. The entrepreneur who can take over the world and do all the things, because I've learned for me that story carries a lot of pain and a lot of harm and doesn't really interest me as much anymore.
Well, you would ask any entrepreneur, and that's exactly what they're chasing, the being successful. Thank you for this very deep intro. How about Sam introducing Simon then?
Yeah. So Simon is someone who I feel like is very brave and always has been, probably since I met him, though sometimes I don't think that he sees that like I do. And by that, I kind of mean just willing to be honest about how he feels and what's happening for him. And I know we're still married after 20 years because of probably that fact. And owning that. Yeah. And so, in terms of the boxes of like what he looks like in what he shows up to every day. He is a primary school teacher for part of his work, and the other part is he works for a company called Outback Futures that does mental health support work in rural Queensland and is responsible kind of for a region in Blackall. I would say probably both Simon and I are kind of helpers to a degree and have always kind of worked and lived in service to other people. I would say that Simon is a thinker. He likes to think about things a lot. He's very clear on what he is and isn't okay with for himself and kind of, yeah. I would say we're both a little bit neurodivergent. So our minds are probably, we've both struggled to kind of fit into the normal of whatever normal is a little bit when we spend a lot of time talking to each other about that.
What am I like as a dad?
Dad. Simon was always a lot softer than I was in a good way when our kids were little. I was grateful that he was able to be more compassionate when our children hurt themselves or needed something. I think I struggled when our children needed something and was like, get up and get on with it and like, don't put your needs onto me, young child. Whereas he was a lot more like, oh, do you need a hug and have you hurt yourself? Or in the middle of the night, I'd be angry if my sleep was interrupted, and he was much more compassionate. I think the kids called out to him when they were younger. I feel like it's switched a bit. I've become a little bit more, as the kids have gotten older, it's like our roles have switched a bit, which is quite interesting. And I'm probably a little bit more able to hold some of the needs of our current age children than Simon, but maybe one parent need, I don't know, maybe.
But I'm much better at probably getting them to do things they need to do, so there's a trade-off there.
Yeah, Simon, it's weird because at the same time he is able to handle our kids being annoyed and disappointed much better than me. So it's kind of, it's like very strange because it's like he's kinda to genuine, like to kids hurting themselves or like, but then if he puts a boundary up and the kids are like annoyed, he'll be like totally fine with that. Like, whereas I'm like, if I put a boundary up and the kids are annoyed, I'll feel bad. And then I'll be like, oh no, you can just. So it's very weird. But yeah, I'm grateful for the kindness he brought to our children when they were little. And then, yeah, definitely as the kids have gotten older, it's weird. I feel like I've understood, I've stepped into my own as a parent a bit more, whereas Simon's probably needed a little bit more help as the kids have gotten older about how to respond in those places.
Yes, and I think part of that journey is just recognizing that the journey of not putting your own stuff onto your kids. So how do you be healthy in raising your kids and not having your own expectations of what they should be like?
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's very interesting what you just said about how it started a certain way, the dynamics between the two of you and your children, and then it evolved over time. So like one of you has strengthened the connection at a certain time and then the other one takes over. Sam, would you like to add anything else about Simon?
Oh, look, I'm going to say this and I think he'll be okay with that. You know, one of the things that I've always witnessed with Simon is he's struggled probably with this sense of what does that mean to be a dad and a man in this modern world, because that looks a certain way in terms of the story of culture. And Simon naturally doesn't lean into that in terms of like that masculine like archetype of whatever.
Type A personality.
And I've seen him struggle with that. And the irony of all of that is, like, I know those men from the business world. I feel like they're actually little boys with a very big mask on. But I've always felt like there is this very, you know, there is this grown-up man in Simon in his ability to actually be vulnerable and honest about what's happening for him, but he doesn't feel that. So it's very interesting because that for him feels weak, but for me that's strong. and what he feels like is strong, I feel is weak. So yeah, it's just this interesting dynamic of perception that how he would feel about himself doesn't match how I feel about him, and how he feels about other men doesn't match how I feel about them. And that's part of the work and the loop of, I guess, what we're in together figuring out. But yeah, like I would say of him, he is a very strong man in his ability to be vulnerable and honest. But
Beautiful.
he may tell you a different story about how he feels about that.
How do you feel about that, Simon?
Gosh, that's a long, big. What's the question again?
Your
What do you-
vulnerability and honesty about
Is
what's
a
happening
strength.
for you, does that make you feel strong or does that make you feel weak?
Yeah, I guess probably. Oh, that's a long story, really, I think. The truth for me is recently I've had a ADHD diagnosis. So inattentive type, I don't know if you know much about ADHD, but there's 3 types. And that's made a lot of sense to me because it's meant that I've really struggled with attention and work and focus. So my career has always been the weakest part of my life, I feel. So I've been happy with being a dad, being married. I've always been really happy with those things relatively. So career's been really hard for me. And I think part of the story with that is the ADHD stuff. I've struggled with organisation and all those kind of things that you need to be good at work in this day and age. So part of my manhood challenge or my manhood struggle has been about work, about being a good provider and being able to have the big income and have the powerful job and that kind of thing. So I've struggled with that. Yeah, so yeah, Sam sees me as a really strong man in some ways, and that's probably true, but where I feel like the world sees me as strong, it's hard to explain, but I feel like my perception of what I need to be is a particular type of man, and I haven't been good at that. So I'm not really great at like making money or, you know, starting a business, running a company. That's not what I'm good at, but I've had a perception that's what you need to be a good man or successful man in this world. So that's the part where I think Sam was saying that, you know, I haven't seen myself as particularly good or particularly strong in that area. I'm coming to terms with who I am and what's important. I'm 50, so I'm still working that out, right?
Well, I really appreciate this openness and vulnerability. What you said about masculinity, and you said the word provider, something that's expected from men, and provider means provider of money, like implicitly, but yeah, what else can we provide? Because there's so much to provide to a family. So it's good to see that we're able to question this as a couple. And as long as we're talking to each other, then we can figure out, and probably at some point in our lives, you can be the money provider and then you can be the attention provider or the care provider or everything else that we have to provide. Yeah, but what's expected from men in society, and what you said, Sam, about grown-up kids with big muscles in the startup scene, it's so obvious. Like
Absolutely.
it's quite impressive. Anyways, so thank you for this very deep intro. I didn't expect we would go with so many things ready to explore, but it's amazing. Okay, so you have teenagers and 1 teen, basically 2 teenagers, 1 teen.
So 2 daughters who are 17 and 15, and then a son who was 11.
He's not really a teenager yet. He's not in that space anywhere near it, really.
What would define when he becomes a teen?
I think just body change. So puberty, I think,
Maybe he stops sleeping with all his toys.
yeah.
He sleeps with his bed is a bed full of
Animals.
squishmallows and big animal at some
Okay.
so he still feels there's an innocence about him when you go and say goodnight where that's still not embarrassing for him and he's okay with it at the point that he's like, I'm not okay with this anymore.
And also I think if he's going through the normal healthy process of being a teenage boy, he'll have that level of wanting to separate from his mum. whether he understands it or not. And so he's not in that space yet, which is okay. He loves his mum. And that's good. There will be a time, as far as I understand, where he wants to leave that behind.
Which is healthy, probably.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Okay, he's not in that space yet.
I know we will talk a little bit about the internet. That doesn't mean the internet and social media and all of that isn't
Present.
very much present in what's happening for him.
To be able to still behave as a child while being connected to the internet. We'll come back to that for sure. Okay, you mentioned earlier during your introduction, you've always felt like, thinking a lot about what is normal or how you would see yourselves as a bit different. So what do you think you intentionally did differently than most families as you were raising your children? Is there one thing that you've always felt that everybody else was doing it differently, but you guys were strongly opinionated on this is not how we're going to be doing, we'll go that way?
Good question.
I would have something to say about that, but I think this is where Simon and I have conflicted a little bit. I've been very strong on, I'm going to call it the child's voice, and not taking the approach of, I'm the parent, you're the child, and you're just going to do what I tell you to do because that's the deal. So I feel like I've always given our kids a voice, like from a very young age, and there's been comments from people, even in my own family, who did it differently, of like me mollycoddling the children or this, that, because the children shouldn't have those rights at that age, kind of around some stuff, or, you're making them think that they've got more of a say than they should have, or who's really in charge here. But I still, even at the point that I'm at, feel very passionate about what I've tried to do there, probably imperfectly. So there's probably some times where it wasn't clear who was in the lead. And I have learned it is really important that the parents are actually firmly in the lead. But that doesn't mean you don't listen to what your kids have to say. That ultimately you are the final decision maker. But in order to make a good decision, you actually have to hear what everybody has to say and not decide on behalf of everybody because that's what suits you. And so that's just been something that, I've always just felt intuitively like this is really important that we consider what's happening for our children and listen to what they have to say, because they will tell you. But generally it's like when they're telling you what they feel, they're generally yelling at you and you're in a big argument. So sometimes you're just not hearing them. You have to step out as the parent and actually ask yourselves, what if they're right? And what would that mean? Not to say that they are, but at least consider what they have to say, because often the way they deliver it is not helpful. And so we just write it off. So that's something I feel like I fought for that's maybe a little bit different. But part of why that's been important is because I want my kids to know that their voice matters and it should be listened to, and to have the confidence to say what it is that they think and feel and to have an experience of that. And so if they just get shut down and if they're told that what you think, what you feel, what you have to say doesn't matter, I'm in charge, do what I tell you to do, that's it. That is like you fast forward that teaching into adulthood and that script and that imprint, and it's just quite compliant people who just do what they're told, and so that's been something that I have always thought was really important, despite what anyone might think about that sometimes looking like I'm giving this child too much say. I did probably do that in the early days. I've learned as I've parented myself, the job isn't to let that lead, it's to consider that when I make a decision as the adult.
How do you see they integrated that, as now teenagers? Like, do you see any direct impact or even indirect impact of this, your voice matter?
Well, I'll keep talking, but you can say something as well, because like your voice matters. No,
Oh, thanks,
I
Tom.
would say, well, our eldest daughter isn't afraid to come and tell us what she thinks or feels or what's happening, because it's always been welcome, even when she knows that we might not like it. And sometimes she'll front load it with, like the other day, she took out our car and kind of hit and scraped.
Well, because she didn't want to pay for her own petrol in her car, so.
It's a long story.
Okay.
We were actually said to her, we know where you're going and parking's going to be tricky because we had a big car. You really need to be careful that you don't have, like, and then she did have an accident exactly the way that we said. Instead of her hiding from that, she calls and she says, Mum, I need to tell you something that isn't going to make you happy, but I'm just being honest. This has happened. To which I replied, thank you for calling me and letting me know. Because that's all, because it is what it is. And so because, knowing that my kids can call us, so she knew, that's the impact of what I see there, that our kids can call us even when they know I've done something wrong. They've learned we will listen to them. There's still consequences. I'm like, you're going to have to pay for some of the, like, insurance on this because you need to feel that responsibility of that because this is real life. And she's like, I know. That's what I see. Kids that are not afraid to talk to us. Kids that are not afraid when they make a mistake to come and tell us. But it is our job not to get angry at our kids for being human. Because you just can't be perfect and you're going to stuff up. And yeah, so that's what I see are children who are not afraid of the truth.
Still, you seem to have cultivated the connection. Above all, that's how Simon described you, anyways, in the beginning, which I also believe is probably, well, to me as a mom, is one of the most important thing to cherish with your children, because when you lose it, then you lose it, like everything else falling apart. Well, that's my opinion on I'm still early in the parenting journey, but even with young kids, if you don't have the connection, then nothing can happen. Simon, I have the same question for you, and you might have a different answer given what Sam just said about, you might have, the first disagreement on that question. But what would you say is, the most uncommon thing in the way you've raised your children that you were very intentional about?
I think I would say it's around expectations with regard to school and sport. So
Tell me more.
it's a really hard one because I'm not sure if we've done the right thing, but we're very much with our kids around sport. It's not about you have to be the best or you have to be really good or whatever. It's just about we want you to enjoy it and we want you to do your best, but you don't have to be. There's no pressure there. And with school as well, there's no pressure around what marks you get. If you do your homework, if you're respectful to your teachers, if you do what you're supposed to do, that's enough. So sometimes I think that's been good. I feel like Eden, our oldest, is really self-motivated with regards to school. She's working really hard at the moment studying. We've never said you have to get these marks. I think at one stage I said, I'm going to just check your GPA to make sure that you're not dropping. And that was more about, is your social life impacting your work? Your study is your
more social media.
Social media use impacting your study. So that was just a bit of a boundary around how you're spending your time. There was never, you have to get A's, you have to get B's. It's like, we just want you to do your best. That's it. With sport, Maisie plays netball. She could have gone and done a kind of a representative team, maybe that would have been a good thing for her just to get her engaged. But once again, we were kind of that, we didn't want to push her to do stuff she didn't want to do. So I've felt there's always been that tension around, do we push our kids, do we encourage them, or do we just let them be? And that's a hard one to work out. I actually still don't know whether we've done that exactly right either. You know, like I just was wary that I didn't want to define my kids around what I needed them to be, which is a trap I could fall into.
And talking about sports, how much were they incentivized to get to try a new sport? Was it through school only, or
Oh,
did you?
there's been heaps of opportunities really. So I mean, the reality is the netball court's at the back of our house. So for Maisie, she's played basketball at school. She did gymnastics. They've had plenty of options. So the kind of with gymnastics, trampolining.
Yeah, they tried heaps of things. Even did circus for a bit. They did ballet. Like, I think when they were little,
Yeah,
they just did lots of stuff, and we, sometimes Maisie has gotten annoyed at us and said, I wish you kept forcing me to do trampolining because I'd be really good now, and I was good. But I say to her, the Maisie at the time didn't want to keep doing it. And so, it's tricky because we respected that at the time. We were like, the rule was you've got to do something. We need to be active with our bodies. That's an important part. But what that is, you get to decide. So the scaffolding is we need to move. It's an important part of life. We need to learn to like exercise with our bodies. But what that is up for
so
whatever.
I don't know if we're right with that, but so with Ellis, he played soccer because I played soccer. He's played cricket. I played cricket. At school, he's done basketball, which I've never played before. So I initially was like, don't play basketball. But I'm like, okay, it's him. It's his choice. It's fine. It's good. I'll get over myself. He's done a bit of AFL. We're doing a bit of golf at the moment.
Golf at the moment.
We're into golf. We might go and do some karate or some taekwondo at some stage. Or he might.
Sorry.
Yeah, okay.
What's because I know it's a difficult question. I remember myself growing up as a kid as well. I was doing a few different activities and, like piano lessons, for example, that I quickly stopped doing because I didn't like it. But the thing I didn't like was not the piano itself, was like the lesson that I was given that was boring, but I couldn't really express that myself as a kid. You're just like, I hate piano, which,
Yeah.
And you can't really make the difference. You can't really analyze that what you don't like exactly. And so I quickly stopped piano because I think I was a pain in the ass for my parents, learning that. But the question I'm asking myself now, our kids, they are 4 and 6. They haven't started any activities yet. And I'm not too inclined to start too soon for other reasons. But yeah, like when do you, what made you take the decision of taking her out of trampoline? If like it's a very, that's what you were saying. It's a tricky line. Like, should I push her a little bit? Because I know that this is how you learn persistence, resilience. Why are you stopping? Is it because it's hard and you can't really reach the next level? Then let's work towards, or is it because people are mean or that you're, I don't know. Like, so how did you?
I've got an indirect answer to this, which is kind of part of what you're asking, but I mean, it might not be, so feel free to jump in and ask me something else. But I really like the idea of, this thing I heard about parenting is commander, coach, consultant. So when they're fairly young, you act in a kind of commander role in terms of, now I'll explain it a bit, about this, you're the parent, this is what we're doing, this is what you're doing as a child, and you can have your opinion about it, we can talk about it, but ultimately I'm the decision maker. When they're a teenager, you as a parent, become more of a coach. And then when they're a bit older, say after 18 or 17, you become a consultant. So they come and see you when they need you. That you don't have you have a say in their life, but when they need it. So when they're younger, and that's what it's not black and white either, but I think I hear about you talking about piano. I think music whether you like it or not, for kids, it's actually really good for their brains and their development. So you could get your kids to do an instrument, they might not like it, but you know that that's actually good for their motor coordination, it's good for their brain, their left-right brain interaction. So there's an element which, even though they don't like it, you go, I know you don't like this, but it might be good for you for a while. I'm not forcing you to be the next Beethoven or whatever, but I think this is really good for you, even if you are challenged by it. And so there's that kind of balance too around, which with Maisie, and maybe we didn't let them stick with stuff, and maybe we should have, I don't know. From what Sam was saying before, with the commander thing, it's a balanced version of that. It's not like you do this or else. So the commander as a parent is, hey, I'm in the lead here. We're going to do this. You might not like it. We can talk about it. So does that? I don't know if that adds to what you're saying or
No,
not.
no, see, I completely see what you mean. And because I agree that when kids are little, sometimes like, I'll take a stupid example, but like kids are just playing inside, being a bit, they have too much energy. Okay. So we're like, okay, let's go to the park. Let's go outside. Let's go play outside. And they're like, no, we're fine playing here, etc. And they don't see the impact, how good just going outside will help them feel. They're not able yet to say, yeah, actually that's exactly what I need, is go to the park, run like crazy for half an hour, and then I'll be way better. So if you're not the commander at the time exactly, then like, they would just stay at home forever and still be messing around. So I really understand that. But with activities, I don't know, it feels I'm not too sure, honestly. We're exploring. We haven't decided yet. To be honest, we're back from the US, where kids over there have like 10 activities after school. It's crazy, like, with very high expectation for each and every one of them. And then they're like, "What are you kids doing after school?" You're like, "Nothing." Well, they're playing outside, which I'm very comfortable not having them do anything yet. And the more I read about free play, the more I'm confident that, honestly, there's no rush in trying a new activity every single year. But also, I want them to be aware of what's happening. And if I don't sign them up for activities, they will just follow their parents' lead. And if their dad loves boxing, they will go after boxing. If I love rowing, and I want to expand their field of, what's possible.
Can I add a couple of bits to this? Because I feel like, we've obviously thought about this a bit, and there's been a framework that I've kind of had around it as well. Because
I'll tell you the stuff we don't do as well, in terms of I think the danger is we go, oh, we've got all this stuff we're doing, but I'll tell you what we struggle with as well after Sam talks.
But this is probably where I've mapped my own childhood a little bit in terms of how my parents raised me, my brother and sister. So me, my brother and sister, for whatever reason, are very high-performing people. And the irony of the whole situation in our childhood was our parents absolutely didn't put any pressure on us to do anything. I think they actually put pressure on them. I think my dad put pressure on himself to be a high-performing person in his own work. But in terms of what that actually looked like in the day-to-day of how my parents parented us, I remember no pressure around my grades. I remember literally nearly no engagement in any of that. They kind of left us to our own devices to free educate, free play, free work it all out for ourselves. Now, we did play sport. We did swim. We went to swimming clubs. We went to netball. And that was a big part of our childhood, but it wasn't a part of our childhood to make us sports people who achieved and did really well. It was a part of our childhood to bring community and connection. And so what that was, it was never about the sport. It was about the community and connection and being a part of something. And then, so I look at me and my brother and sister now, and my sister plays tennis during the day, and I'm still a part, and I go to the gym, or I do, we're all still really active, healthy adults in some ways, participating, but it was never about the achievement of the outcome of success in that area. It was just the joy of life and the connection of that. And so with the kids, in some ways, that's what I learned. I was like,
Did Dale have any implicit pressure around swimming, or is that just something he just did because he
no,
loved it?
that's just something that he did. And in
Yeah.
fact, like, to be honest, he went to the States and Nationals, and, I don't think that my dad showed up to watch any of that, and that was not really ever spoken about.
Mm.
So the pressure on the achievement wasn't, well, there was just none of that. And yet, as adults, here, me and my siblings are all, in some ways, all the things that you kind of want in terms of being a capable adult. And that absolutely did not come from any kind of forced thing that my parents were trying to put on top of us to get an outcome. And I always think about that, and I go, oh, that's really interesting. Like, yeah, just trusting. So me just being focused as an adult on doing the things and I want to be and do to be healthy, as an example to my children who witness me while I take the pressure off, so they know that's what adulting looks like. And so when they become adults, it's inherent motivation. So there's this intrinsic, extrinsic, and intrinsic. Like, I would say that we have intrinsic motivation. So we are just motivated from the inside out, because there was never extrinsic. We didn't need to win. We didn't need we didn't need, kind of, in some ways. I mean, I say that, and then I think about my business, and that was all about outcome. That's, when I got into that world, that's where the pain was. I was just like, heck no, like, let's just play. And as an adult, I'm like, the joy is still in the play, not in the outcome. And as soon as you go to outcome, it's just, there's no fun anymore. And it's just like, it's all defined by.
So, where do you think the exigence is coming from? Is it only intrinsic motivation, as you were saying? Like you were saying, you've been 3 high performing kids, which doesn't mean happy, by the way. Like, it can go with trauma and other things. But like, so the 3 of you became high performing kid without having a very performance driven kind of education. Where do you think the exigence came from, or how did you even build that yourselves?
Yeah, so it's all in curiosity. So me, my brother and sister love solving problems. Like, that's where we find joy, and we're very curious. So my sister's an accountant, so I see that play out in her accounting. Like, it's crazy. And my brother and me, we all do very different things, but at the core of us is this insatiable drive to solve problems. We're probably good in chaos too. And we're very curious and very determined. And I don't know if as kids we just, like, we were left to play to figure things out, and we just enjoyed figuring things out so much because nobody ever helped us. Just got really good at that. And that became who we were. There's like upsides and downsides to that, because yeah, but it's somewhat wrapped up in curiosity and really enjoying problem solving.
And where do you think this come from?
Oh, look, I think we were just kicked outside and bored, and we didn't have lots of resources. We weren't like a super well resourced, rich family. We had to make fun happen out of nothing.
Also, I would say your dad, because of his background, being kind of orphaned at a certain age, just had to go out there and get it done and solve his problem of not having any resources. And your mum, did she have a snack bar?
Had a
And
snack bar at some point.
so they all just, I guess they solved problems through working.
Yeah.
And you
So
saw
whether
that
it
as a
was
kid.
Yeah, I think that was the DNA they had in terms of what their parents did. So when that became part of who they were.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah, so from 9, my dad was kind of orphaned, so he just had to learn how to work from a young age and be useful and, I guess, solve problems. And yeah, so it possibly just was in our DNA a bit. It's just really fascinating for me to, I feel like everybody's working so hard to try and do all the right things to get their kids to be something. And I laugh and think about my parents, and I'm like, they did nothing.
Yeah.
It was kind of like ignorance is bliss in certain ways around
They just worked hard
there's
themselves.
there's been some harm that's come from that too. So there's not like that's all gold. There's some shadows there, definitely some shadows there too, which are huge.
Yes, so that's true. As I say, like now, I don't want to be successful. What is that even? Like, I just am like, oh gosh, no, let's
Yeah.
just play.
I think, Simon, you wanted to add something to the conversation, but it was a
Oh,
while ago, so I'm not sure.
I might have been about.
Was it about
No, yeah,
practice?
what we don't do very well as parents is probably routine or our kids have routine lives, but in terms of things like musical practice or like not great at routines. So Ellis plays the cello, but he never practices. But that's not on him; it's on us because he's only 11. So I'm not great at the routine stuff, and our daughters have done viola and violin, and it would have been, I don't need them to be great violinists, but I would have been much better if they just practiced to be a bit better technically. And I think that's actually about their brain development as much as anything.
But the irony of that is that our kids love music, and our daughter, who doesn't do violin, did music in grade 11 and 12, plays the drums, plays bass, does all this stuff, goes to concerts, and loves. So I'm like, did we do the wrong thing? Like, ultimately, they do music and they love it in their way.
Yes.
It's always about expectation. Like, if you have a very specific kind of expectation, then it's probably a source of a lot of disappointment. Although, if you have just a big area of, like for them to be curious and to, yeah, explore music, for example, no matter how they play music, it can be on their spare time, it can be as professionals, it can be, and it's just
Yeah.
the
I
way
think it's
fits with
just a
them.
trick. It's just a tricky one about. I mean, there's no. I think the biggest thing that I always try to remember with parenting is there's no perfect. No matter what you do, whether you go to laissez-faire style of parenting or really high expectations, there's going to be good and bad results come around from both ways of doing things. I've got a friend who's a very gifted musician, and he would have practiced a lot of piano when he was younger. And the good thing about piano is you learn a lot of theory. So part of his brilliance is his creativity plus his understanding of theory. But, there's a shadow side to that too. So you've got to realize that there's just no perfect as well. Like, yeah, it's just it's a tricky one.
Can we talk about your own, so how you grew up, Simon? Because I understood a bit the context of Sam's, but how about you? Like, what kind of environment did you grow up in? And from this environment, what are you trying to pass on to your kids? What are you
Yeah,
trying to, like, okay, let's close the door. This stays in the past and that's it.
I grew up in a fairly middle class family. So, yeah, very middle class actually. Dad was a professional, mum was at home when we were younger. She ended up working. I've got one sister, but yeah, at point of about when I was about 11 or 12, my parents separated and had a very messy divorce that carried on for a long period of time. So when I was going into my teenage years, very unstable in terms of my family life. And my dad, I would say, and Sam would say, probably more strongly than me, is quite, in a sense, unhealthy and narcissistic. So when I basically was a boy turning into a teenager, Dad was really either not around or not in a good, not focused on us. So I think what I wanted to pass on to my kids is my commitment to Sam as my wife, have stability so that when they are teenagers and when they're going through these years that we are really stable. And so they have that stable foundation just to be whatever they want to be. And I guess also, really, that's the main kind of thing, that stability in our family life. I wanted to make sure that was passed on, plus the fact that they knew that I really loved their mum and that was the priority for me.
Being loved unconditionally and supported.
Yeah, I think one of the best pieces of advice I've ever heard for parenting was about the best thing you can do for your kids is to love their mother or father or partner or whatever it is. Like, so I've always thought that's really important. So also with parenting, I've realized that I'm going to be like my dad in some respects, whether I like it or not, and to not keep trying to push that down and not be like that, but actually go, oh no, hang on, recognize when you are like that, or recognize when I am like that, and own it and move through it, not just suppress it. So, yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
That
think
makes
often
sense.
we can try not to be like our parents and we just try and suppress this part of our parents we don't want to be. But I think that can make it worse if we recognize when it's happening and own it. Or if I recognize when it's happening and own it, I'm more likely to approach it in a way that's healthy and move through it rather than suppress it. Because that's when it gets bigger.
That's the whole thing about your documentary scene, right? Is like, how
Yeah.
do you heal from your own past? And of course, that's what you said, Simon, about not fighting against that, but probably making peace with what you received, because your parents were not perfect, but they probably tried their best too in their own context with their own abilities. In the documentary, I love that moment where they were like having empathy for yourself as a kid, seeing yourselves as a kid and having empathy for this kid, but also having empathy for the caregivers at the time, so your parents or whoever was raising you, like, because they were probably in their own ways doing their best as well. So you've been parenting for 17 years. Is there anything that you've had in mind since the beginning, something that if your kid could have this specific trait,
Yeah.
they will have a good life no matter what happens, because we all know that we can't control the context, but if they have this, they're gonna be fine, and they're gonna have a good life.
I can answer that fairly quickly.
Yeah, so go ahead.
But
Yeah,
then you
awesome.
can maybe...
Well, you answer first.
I think self-confidence. I guess that comes from the place of me probably not having enough of that throughout my life. So I'm like, if my kids can just be confident and not, not arrogant, but happy in who they are and confident to make their way in the world, then that'll be enough. I'll have done my job as a parent.
Do you share that, Sam?
Yeah, definitely that. I mean, the thing that I would say to that is that I believe that's not something that you can make happen in your child. You actually have to make that. You have to become what it is that you want your child to be. So
Not
the
sure.
challenge here, yeah.
No, so you meaning you need
challenge-
to embody what you want your child to have. Is it what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I hear Simon say, and I understand what he's saying because I've been married to him for 20 years, and I know he has said to me, I don't want my kids to struggle with some of the things that I've struggled with. I'm like, that's your work to do, not the kids. When you address that, when you heal that, when you transform that, when you can become self-confident, you show them how to do that, and that's when they become self-confident. And so the things we want for our kids, when they are things that we never had ourselves, we can't give those to our children if we haven't gone on the journey of giving that to ourselves. So this is the interesting part of what we hope for our children. We actually have to stand in and become ourselves if we want to have any chance of our children actually having those gifts. I might not be right, but I feel very sure about that reality. And so I know what I want my children to be, I need to be. They are becoming who we are, not what we tell them.
And I can give you an example where that rings true at the moment. Like, I don't know if it's going to... I feel like Eden's a little bit of an anomaly because she's quite confident at 17. But so is Sam. But whereas with Alice, our 11-year-old...
What's happening?
Is it your birthday?
No, I don't know
Happy
what's
birthday.
happening. What's wrong with this screen? Okay, never mind.
That's all right.
Balloons. All right. Yeah, sorry, you were saying.
Yeah, so one thing I've noticed with Ellis at the moment is his reference point for himself is all the people around him. So soccer, there's people deciding for him how he's feeling, or some of his friends at school or whatever. And I'm like, oh no, don't do that, don't do that. But I realized that's how I've probably shown up, and not explicitly, but maybe implicitly. Like I've really worked hard not to be like that, but maybe that's how I've shown up, is that I've just, one of the things I've struggled with is comparing myself to others, other males, and how successful they are or whatever. And even though I've worked really hard not to be like that, maybe that's just implicitly how I've shown up to him, and maybe he's reflecting that back to me and how he's behaving. So I've got to do the work on that for me, right? And that's confronting in some ways.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to add anything to that, Sam.
I mean, the issue that I would name it as is he finds it hard to hold himself and how he feels about himself, and he gets lost in how
This is
other
Ellis.
people, are
Yeah.
reflecting it. And that's what I've witnessed Simon do for 20 years, is not be able to hold himself. But the thing is, and no one's ever actually said anything like directly negative to Simon. It's the story he's told himself of what he believes other people are thinking. That isn't even real. That is defining his reality. And we're kind of seeing our son somewhat do the same. And, Simon's like, I've worked really hard to try and not hide this from me, blah, 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 blah. And it's just like, no, but you don't understand. If it's who you are, it's who you are. And there is no hiding. It's just true. And if you want to change it, you've got to change it. And I remember feeling really strongly. I mean, I had this conversation with Simon as our son was getting older, and we were starting to see that he was struggling a bit. Our 17-year-old has just...
Ah.
I'm going to go move a car quickly. I'll be
He's got
back.
to move a car.
Okay,
I'll be
sounds
back.
good.
17-year-old,
Yeah,
because she
sure.
doesn't have her manual license. She just has her automatic.
Keep
All
talking
right.
to that. I'll be back.
I'll keep talking to
Sounds
that.
good. Okay, cool.
I remember feeling to the core of my bones when I could see that our son was struggling, because we had two daughters first. So Simon and I have both been doing a lot of personal work to help our kids. And I would say I went first. But something in me, we also had girls, knew that the girls were watching me and mapping me. And I do believe that people can think kind of whatever they want, but I feel like they're mapping me more so than they're mapping Simon in terms of who am I meant to be in this world. And so I worked really, really hard to face a lot of things that I knew I had to face. I had some big trauma happen to me when I was 14 that went on for 2 years. I actually feel like I got stuck at 14. So as my eldest daughter was like doing a run up to 14, like she was getting to 12, 13, something in me knew, like it's like that was calling out my trauma. And if I didn't face that, she was going to overtake me and be in the lead. It's like I was 14. I didn't grow past that. And so that really, I decided to double down on that and just dive in. That was a full-on couple of years of my life. Really grateful that I did. And I still confidently feel like I'm in the lead of my kids. She's now 17, and I definitely feel more grown up, like I'm still in the lead of you, which is what our kids need. I feel like I had to lead myself most of my life. That's part of my wound. It's why I'm really good at leading, but it's also really painful for me because I've never felt like I got to rest. I feel like I've always been at work, and our children's job is to rest into us. And when they become the adult, that is where they step into leading themselves. But when they're little, it's our job for them to rest into. It's not their job. And this is the parentified child stuff, right? And I remember with my son, I could see, and something in me knew, he's not watching me, he's watching Simon. And I do remember saying, like, this is your work to do. If you want to help him, and I felt so powerless as the mum. I did. I just was like, this bit I can't do. He's watching you. Like, you've got to do this bit. I did it for the girls. Like, you've got to step up and if you want to help him, yeah. And so, I really honor Simon that he has stepped into that and he has been really brave with all of that because it is not easy. Like, it is not easy to admit, yeah, what you are doing to your children without you realizing it. Like, once the story or the lens kind of moves
Well, and the thing is, doing to your kids, it's not bad stuff. It's
on
just,
purpose,
it's just there's some gaps.
yeah. And the pain is what happened to you. So that's the generational trauma piece. So the hard part, it's not just the pain you've passed on to your kids. It's also, you also have to feel the pain of what actually happened to you and go back there too. So it's like this double shot of like hard. It's like the hard of admitting what you passed on and the hard of admitting what happened to you. So it's, it's an injection of just pain all over the place. But the thing is, when we feel that pain, that's when we stop passing it on for our kids. And when we refuse to feel the pain, that's when we pass it on. So someone's got to feel it. We can't outrun it. We can't escape it. We can't numb it. It is just a part of the human story. This is what I'm always saying to people. Like, the problem that we're currently facing in society is that we don't want to feel pain. Everything's gotten really easy and we turn away from it. As parents, we're just like, we're very sensitive to it. We've got all the dopamine and all the things in the world to help us, like all the artificial dopamine, like social media, like all these things, drugs, to numb it, squash it, squash it, squash it. I say, depression and those kind of things, that's when that takes over without your consent. Like, you can't outrun this stuff. So you either have to accept it's a part of the story and I need to allow it and make friends with it and find peace with it, rather than keep trying to shut it down because it's there. And it's just a case of choose your pain.
Yeah. And you can go on your merry way and just keep doing all the things to distract yourself. And that's fine. You can do that, but it's going to carry on to your kids, whether you like it or not. Yeah.
The question to follow up on that, I actually do the transition to social media. But do you think the healing of yourselves, because we probably all have to heal in our own ways, and for some it's probably deeper than others because of what happened to them. But
Yeah.
what's your personal opinion? Do you think it can be as light as just talking to your partner about that to realize what are you carrying on from your own education and, trying to change and these kind of things? Or going through a year-long therapy or even more and make it more serious in that sense, really taking care of your own mental health and development as well as a parent. What do you think about this?
Depends. It depends what it is. I think that's a really hard thing to answer. Everyone's going to be different. And sometimes you might be able to have discussion with your partner and you might be able to resolve those things, or your partner might not be able to hold that for you and need someone else to hold it for you, depending on what it is. Like,
yeah, true. Yeah, no, it depends so much from one person to another. It depends also how healthy your relationship is with your partner as well.
I feel like I've got some things to
Sam
say.
Sam can probably answer that.
My opinion is that everybody is carrying some level of big T or small t trauma. So trauma isn't just what happens to you. Trauma can be what didn't happen. And so Simon and I have always been, right from the start of our marriage, people who were open to talking about this kind of stuff and getting help and support. That's why we're still here. If I was to look at my childhood, I would say my parents are still married. We always had food and somewhere to live. My parents never swore at us. They weren't alcoholics. They weren't drug addicts. They never yelled and said mean things to me. They always just accepted and loved me for who I was. They've accepted and loved each other. So there's nothing there that I can see to say there's a lot of trauma, but I can tell you that have experienced a lot of like trauma. Simon even was always saying, everyone says my childhood's fine. Everyone.
Yours?
No, everyone says their childhood was
Oh,
fine.
okay,
Nearly
right.
everybody that you will talk to, it's like, it's not me. Oh, it was fine. What I think is true is that we are all carrying around wounds from what happened or didn't happen in our childhoods because parents cannot be perfect. Including us, we can't be perfect for our kids either. And that it is a wise thing to think about that, if that is true, and to just explore that, to understand it a bit better, because that's the blind harm that we're often doing to each other. Divorce is at a over 50% rate now, right? So we're getting worse at this, not better. Like we as society are unable to communicate, hold each other's pain, talk about it, work together, ask for help, stay at it. We're all just like, it's too hard, I'm out. It's too hard, I'm out. Actually, it needs to be like, this is hard. We need
Let's
to
do
double
this.
down, not get out. And that's that pain bit where we're all just become so soft in some ways to hard and pain that as soon as we're starting to feel it, we actually just opt out and we're like, oh, it's fine. It was them. They had some red flags, this, that, or the other. And I would say of Simon and I, we have actually never been to couples counselling. I think we went one time. So all of our work has been done individually. It hasn't been done together.
We talk a lot.
We talk a lot. Oh, yeah. So we talk
All the
about
time.
it. But our work was, and it happened at different times. And we just have a commitment to talk about it and stay in it. We've learned, you go through seasons of, sometimes I'll be like, I'm not really vibing you at the moment and you're kind of annoying me. But that's probably more about me. He might feel that about me. But we've just learned that that's all a part of the story. The story isn't a moment in time. It's a relationship. It's a whole history. And you have to learn about story and how all of that kind of works. And so, I don't know, I would just say to all couples, like, we all have work to do and we're all in it together. And the more that you can make peace with that and get the help you need when you need it and not judge the other person when they need it, like, that's how we do this.
And it's not black and white either. Like, you're talking about trauma, big T trauma, small T trauma. Some of that stuff within childhood and the things you go through is within realms of normal, right? So you might say your parents weren't perfect, but that's actually pretty normal. That's normal imperfection and that's fine, whereas sometimes it's a lot bigger than that. So in terms of advice on when do you know, it's really, I guess, if you're in your relationship, if you're suffering, in your personal life, if you're suffering in a way that you think is not normal, you don't want to suffer anymore, then find out more about that. Yeah, it's not black and white.
I had to process with someone else before I brought it to Simon.
I see.
So full honesty around that was, I felt like in some ways I had to be the one that was okay. I was carrying it for Simon to be okay. So it wasn't okay for me not to be okay. I didn't know how to not be okay because I thought he might be a mess.
Well, that was your perception.
This was my perception.
Wasn't
if
necessarily
I
the case.
wasn't okay because I'm the okay one. So I had to go outside of him because I didn't think he could handle it, to go see someone else and work through all of this. And she said something to me that changed everything, which was, why don't you let Simon decide? He just might surprise you. That's what my psychologist said. And that question right there, I was deciding for Simon that he couldn't handle, that I was struggling. But what ended up happening when I was brave enough to show up and say to him, I'm not okay. This is what I need. I need you to be okay. I need you to have me in this. Like, I need you to step up in some ways. Then he was like, okay. And then he did. And then he realized he could. So I was also creating a reality of keeping him from that by not allowing him to even step up for me and hold me, because I was contributing.
Well, you probably didn't know
I didn't know that was
you didn't know what you wanted.
yeah. So I've been on a very big journey of even knowing it was okay for me to have needs and ask for what I need, and I was just in service to everybody else. But that's all part of my story. So, but I had to go outside of him and get support
I see.
to then come back to him and have that conversation.
Ultimately, it all comes back to connection. You mentioned that with your kids at the very beginning of this conversation, but like with your partner as well, as role models for your children. I think we probably underestimate how parents are leading the way in terms of how should we handle conflict and how should we handle not feeling okay and being sad and comforting each other and being here for each other. And yeah, it's doing this journey as well as parents. Like, it's not always only about our kids, it's also about what you said, healing yourself, healing and growing as a couple. This is what actually we should protect and nurture at all costs, like this connection, so that we are better equipped to help our children through their challenges. I love this. Okay, let's talk a bit about social media and communities, because Sam, you have a strong background of building online communities, gathering parents around content to help them grow, but even before that, gathering moms, I think. What I believe is that communities and online communities can be really powerful to find information, to find connections, to just feel less alone in some ways, but it can also be like super harmful, especially for young children and teenagers who are still, their brain is still developing up until they're 25. So your kids are exactly in that developing phase as well still. So how do you navigate the online presence for your children? And you've probably evolved over time. You probably don't have the same answer for your daughter who's 17 and for your son who's 10 and the one who's 15 as well. So maybe first, can you walk us through what it looks like today?
I would say start by saying the picture is, for me, not what I would like it to be in terms of how our kids access social media and that kind of thing. Like, I would like it to be less. And one of the things I talked about before was being structured and routine is not one of my strong points. There's certain things we do well, but there's certain things I've still got a long way to go. So that'll just be the first way of framing it, to say you're definitely imperfectly.
Could you, Simon, give me a picture of how it looks like? I understand the feeling, but what does it look like for each and every one of your children?
See, you talk about social media, I'm like, absolutely, gaming needs to be in there for boys as strongly as social media. I feel like it is the exact same issue. Social media, it's like gaming is the thing for boys, and I feel like social media is the thing for girls. And I feel like we're missing that as a part of the conversation, and it is significant because our son isn't on social media.
Well, he's on YouTube.
He does watch YouTube, but he does like some online gaming stuff, and the impact of that I actually think has been more significant than what I think social media has been for our daughters. And sometimes I'm like, we're not talking about this as much as we should be talking about this. For our boys, it's big because
I think they're different things. Like, so in terms of what it would look like, is the question, what does it look like for each of them now in terms of their access?
Yeah, for now. So what I would like to uncover is, what does it look like now for children aged 11, 15 and 17? Like, maybe each and every one of them, do they have a smartphone? Are they on Instagram, TikTok? And how much time do you spend from what you know? But like, is it nothing? Is it like they're full time on that?
No.
The routines, these kind of things.
This is where for me it gets honest and imperfect, right? In terms of, say, Ellis. So today's Saturday. This morning he would have got up at 6 o'clock or 6:30, and he had soccer at 9. He would have been on probably playing games on his phone from 6:30 to maybe 8:30. with YouTube on in the background.
Okay.
Because we like sleeping in on Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
Who doesn't
So that's
like
3
it?
hours. By the time we're getting up on Saturday morning, we know he's like 3 hours in,
Yeah.
and it's only 9 a.m.
So this is that part of me which I don't like admitting, that I don't think it's very far from being ideal in what our kids, or particularly Ellis, I think, for his age and what he needs. Anyway, so that's that. So yeah, in the school, on school days in the afternoon, he'll get home at 3:30 and pretty much be doing that kind of thing till about 5:30 or 6. And we have 6 to 8 every night is tech-free time for everyone. But he's going to bed by about 8:30. So on the weekends,
It's pretty much a free-for-all.
pretty much a free-for-all. So we work hard at trying to do stuff and trying to keep them busy. So
When did he get his first? Go ahead.
Well, he doesn't have a phone.
He doesn't have a phone.
There is a phone.
I didn't say he has a phone.
No, you did. You actually said on his phone.
And on his phone,
Did
he
I?
said.
No, he doesn't have a phone. No,
Okay.
he doesn't have a phone.
That.
Oh no, playing games on his.
Okay, so
Yeah.
he doesn't have a phone,
Okay.
but we don't have like lots of gaming devices. We do have a Nintendo Wii, but we have held off any kind of like
Switch.
Xbox. Sorry, a Nintendo Switch. We've held off Xbox. We're still holding the line, even though the kids want that, because we're like, no more. But so he used to take my phone to play either Pokemon Go or Roblox. Mm-hmm. But this is my work phone, and it was becoming quite problematic in the afternoons, and like he would just be gone with my phone. So we had a spare like phone in our house that just can take the internet. So he plays Roblox on that, maybe, and some Pokemon Go. So in the mornings he'll
Doesn't operate as a smartphone though.
yeah. So but he does have that.
He doesn't take it with him to school.
He doesn't take it
it out anywhere with him.
It's just like he does that.
It's like a little. It's like almost like another gaming console in some
Yeah,
ways.
exactly.
Yeah, because the Nintendo doesn't do that game, which is something that he plays with his friends from school. It's tricky.
Okay, before we go into the tricky part, is he proactive showing you, oh, mom or dad, look what I'm playing? Or do you have to ask?
So I'll say a couple of things. I feel like, but I could be wrong, and Simon might not like me saying this, but I don't know.
It's not about me.
Well, I feel like I'm probably have been the parent who has been way more across this.
Oh yeah. Anyway, I don't think that in terms of the Ellis.
It's definitely across being able to hold boundaries and our kids be really upset and him, I say not caring, but just being able to not be affected by that. I'm more affected by that. But also Simon, with his lack of being able to be consistent, the problem that probably he's struggled with is tech needs consistency, and I'm probably the person who does consistency well. So Simon will have the problem, but I'll have to do the work of consistency to solve that. And sometimes I'm too tired to do that work, so things slip. So that is the struggle of what tech's been in our home, that I find it hard to hold the boundaries because the feelings get really big with our kids, and I find that more overwhelming. Simon can deal with the feelings, but he is not as good at being consistent. And so we haven't quite figured that out yet. He's not wrong when he gets annoyed, but I'm also like, but that's your work to do to parent this. I'm too tired trying to parent it. I've been doing it. So we haven't really figured that out. I would say that's what I know the problem is. But we try and we come back and we're just on it and we're trying imperfectly. So it's messy.
You
I've been
iterate.
very strategic with our kids around tech. For me, I'm actually quite passionate about all this area. For me, I have had a framework that what makes children vulnerable online is actually not knowing who they are and not having a strong sense of self. So I have completely flipped how you want to think about this. In terms of predators online and your children being vulnerable to predators, children are vulnerable to predators more so because they are so desperate for somebody to see them and be nice to them and think that they're valuable, that they'll do anything, which is what happens, to get that. If you want to protect your kids, make sure that need is met from you and that they are not so desperate, because why do some kids pass it by
But
and other kids don't? Now, this isn't the story for everyone, so I know people might have had experiences of this with their kids. So
but you also don't. What's a really dodgy area of Paris, for example, that's dangerous?
Okay, let's talk about San Francisco, where I was 2 days ago.
San
So you
Francisco.
can talk about Tenderloin, for example.
What's it
You,
called?
you
Tenderloin.
Tenderloin, you really
Tenderloin.
don't
So
want to hang
you
out
don't.
over there.
You also don't leave your kids on the street corner in Tenderloin by themselves as well. So in Sam saying that with about kids being secure, you don't just leave them somewhere dangerous. So the internet is a very dangerous place. So there's boundaries you have to have around what they can see and can't see, but you also want to do what Sam said around making sure they are secure and they don't need to find those things.
Yeah.
So that's that's two parts to it.
Yeah.
Don't put your kids in Tenderloin by themselves at midnight, but also make sure they know, probably when they're more like that teenager age, make sure they know who they are.
Well, the cup is full in them for feeling like they have value. Like, predatory people prey on children who feel like they are worthless,
And adults.
and adults. Worthlessness and is the vulnerability to that, and worthlessness comes from lots of different places, but one of the key places is not having the attention, not having the people in your life who birthed you treating you like you matter, like they love you, like that their eyes light up when you walk in the room. All kids want someone's eyes to light up, not to be like, oh my gosh, what do you want now? Like, please leave me alone. You're too much. It's too much. I can't deal with all this.
Sometimes you do that.
Yes,
And that's okay.
we do
It's
that.
occasional.
So it's about balance. But if we are not in love with our children, not just I love my children, but in love with our children, they are looking for an adult or someone to be in love with them in that, like, I see you and I think you're amazing. And so if they are desperate for that, they will be vulnerable. And that's what predatory people, this is what they know. So they will be grooming children with making them feel like they are special, they matter, like, I think you're amazing. And the kids are just like, finally somebody. And then they'll attach to that, and then the requests start coming to, and they will do whatever it takes to keep
And
doing
also,
that, because it's a desperate need that they have to be met.
we never take it for granted that our kids do feel like that too. I guess we don't. We hope and we keep doing our best to have them feel that they are loved and valued. But ultimately, we don't know 100%. We're just doing our best to make sure that they are as well.
Yeah. So, like, when we talk about tech, I'm like, you can put all the things on your kids' devices that you love.
And they're helpful and necessary.
There's always a way around it. There's always, like, if you are desperate enough and it's your friend's phone at school, or kids are smart, there's a way around everything. So I think it is important that you do what you can to protect your kids, but that's not enough. And so what we see is parents going, well, I've put on the app and I've paid for this, so my job is done. It's like, your job is not done. It is not just it is like loving your children. And so with our girls, there's been like things downloaded on their app and blockers and parental controls and stuff. Our 15-year-old can only be on Instagram 45 minutes a day.
In saying that, I actually think my preference would be, as a 15-year-old, she's not on Instagram at all. The only reason she would be is to communicate with her friends, but I feel that at some level, because it's such candy in terms of what it displays, I just don't think it's helpful. So I don't like the fact that she's on Instagram. And I think it's not even healthy for most adults, to be honest. It can be a way of connecting with other people and seeing your friends, but for a 15-year-old, I feel uneasy about her having 45 minutes a day on Instagram. I just don't think she needs it, to be honest.
Whereas this is where we differ in opinion.
15 minutes would be fine.
I feel like these things are here to stay and they're not going away. And they're a part of the story now, whether I like them or not. And my job is to help my children learn how to live with them, understand them, and best that happens with our guidance. That is about how much we're engaged with understanding what it is that is in their algorithms and stuff. So my approach has much more been, and it's tricky because these things are like a drug, but they're not going away. So it's like we have brought drugs into our house and they can get out of control and we can become very dependent on them. And I talk to my kids about this. I force them to watch The Social Dilemma with us. I took my kids to see Taron Brumfitt's documentary on like the embraced kids.
Even amongst all the eye rolling and all the, not
yeah,
again.
So I have
what are we doing?
forcibly educated my children. They hate it. They're like, enough of the TED Talks. But I know, like my parents always hated The Simpsons and told us how bad it was, and we hated them saying that. But as an adult, I don't watch The Simpsons, and I think it's bad for no other reason than that's the messaging I got from my parents. So I've been messaging to my children, this thing is a drug, it is impacting your brain, there is this thing called dopamine, this is what's happening to you. And then I still let them do it. And then as things happen, I'm like, see, and they're like, shut up, leave me alone, stop, blah, 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 blah. But I believe I'm creating a story that is being embedded. Maybe it's a negative story, but I'm fine with that, around what this thing is. And I'm not all or nothing it. I actually think all or nothing approaches, this is my opinion, is not healthy. We have to learn to live in the messy middle of it. And I'm like, if you want this, then you have to sit and have this conversation with me. Like, that's the agreement. The agreement is that you get what you want and I get what I want. What I want is for you to sit and listen to what I have to say about this, as much as you don't want to hear it. And my 17-year-old still rolls her eyes at me, still says I don't want to hear it, still says leave me alone and leave it be. But I believe those stories and that education is still making a way. Now, if I was to take it away completely and say you can't have it, that's where I think it becomes much more dangerous as a drug that they will really double down on.
Yeah, they would find ways.
Now, it would find its way. They still get to have the drug, but the condition is with the nagging TED Talk of a mother that is consistently, so in Australia at the moment, we've got like, that are laws coming in saying that kids under 16 can't be on social media. And I'll say to my kids, they won't like to hear it, you know how I've been talking to you for years about this? Like, it's that serious now that the government are now like banning it, and they're talking about banning YouTube for kids on it. I'm not a crazy person. And I say to them, I'm not a crazy person who's trying to ruin your fun. I'm a mother who really loves you and is trying to protect you from something that I can see could be a problem, and you don't understand that now. And it's a bit like smoking. It's a bit like asbestos. These things were killing us and we didn't know until we knew. And then what do we do about it when we're like so far down the line of it? And so I just say those things to them as we still hold this, and it's still a bit of a juggle. And all of this advice and all that I've done might have been a terrible idea, and Simon might have been right that we should have just not had it. But I don't think either one of us was capable of parenting without it, to be honest. I don't think we were ready to step up and do the work of holding that, because it was going to ask, like we chose to allow that because we want to sleep in on Saturday morning. Like, we are choosing ourselves, really.
Trade-offs.
If we're going to be truthful.
Plus, I think I've been thinking a lot about all this, like, our kids are definitely not in an age where they're asking for social media. Although our oldest recently, he's 6 years old, he asked me, Mom, what age do we get a phone? And I was like, I don't know, 15, 16. Yeah, exactly. I should have said that. And he was like, when exactly am I 16? And he was, counting down the years that he still had to wait. And this really, for me, was when I realized, oh, if he's asking that, it's because he's seeing all of us, all the time holding our phones, checking things. And although we are very seldom checking social media when we're with our kids. Still, you're checking on Google Map, you're checking a message, you're calling an Uber, you're, like
Yeah, that's right.
a lot of things that we take for granted. We don't think we're doing any harm because we're doing just like checking stuff to get over
Yeah.
there or to, but for them,
General life admin
exactly,
stuff.
exactly. But
Yeah.
still, between you and them, there's a phone, and that's what they see all the time, constantly. Just look in a bus, you will see everyone on their phone. And although some of us might be reading, like
Yeah.
intelligent, smart thing, but still, all what they see is adults spending all their time on their phone. And this, for us, was kind of a trigger of we need to have a healthier relationship with our tools, because it's not normal that a 6 years old is asking us for a phone. Like there's something wrong.
Sometimes I still buy a newspaper on the weekend, like a physical newspaper.
Yeah,
just to
or
go,
this. What
I'm
is it,
reading the
Mom?
newspaper. I'm not doing it. I'm not on
Yeah.
my phone. What is that?
Yeah, exactly. So you mentioned the 45 minutes on Instagram. Is it that after 45 minutes the app will block, or is it that, what does it mean? Like is it okay? And how did you come up with the 45 minutes? Like, was it a negotiation? Was it like a top down, take it or leave it? How did you come to that? First question.
Well, there's 45 minutes on Instagram. I think there's an hour on Snapchat. It's not like our 15-year-old probably still spends 3 hours on her phone a day on various things. And then, to be really honest with you, possibly jumps on her computer to watch some Netflix after then. So what I will say, I do know a lot about this, just even in the work that I've done in terms of the frameworking of all this stuff. It's not just how much time my kids are spending online, it's what else. The online stuff is the opportunity cost. Like, that time is coming at an opportunity cost of other things that they're not doing, and therefore those skills are not being built. Hence why we say to our kids, you have to do a sport. Like, part of the deal of having social media and all of this access is being involved, like having these other things in your life as well. We stop doing that, then that other stuff's going to get impacted, because you need to have all of this. So it's really approaching it from a systems point of view rather than just focusing in on the one thing. So we actually go to church. We go to church on a Sunday morning. Our 15-year-old daughter volunteers and like helps out in kids' church. Like last holidays, she did 3 days volunteering doing some stuff. She goes to youth group on a Friday night, which our 17-year-old used to do. Our 17-year-old is becoming more of her own person to make those decisions for herself. She plays sport. She has training as well on Wednesdays. She also has a part-time job. So both our daughters work at Macca's, and she'll have 2 to 3 shifts a week. So when I look at their health as a 15 or 17-year-old, I'm not just like, she spent 5 hours on watching some Netflix. I'm like, this week she has volunteered at places, played some sport with her mates, gone to youth group, showed up to school 5 days a week without any issues. She has worked. I'm like, there's a balance of engaging in the fullness of life there, which makes me not feel as stressed out about her technology use. If she wasn't doing those things and she was at home and she was just watching technology at all hours outside of being at school, I would say we've got an issue here. But our kids are self-motivated to get up, get themselves to work, make themselves food. So yeah, I look at that and I go, I can see balance. And so, and we just make sure, and they know, do these things and we won't have a problem.
I think the only thing within that I would say they're missing, and I would like to, which comes down to me being better at maybe explaining this to them or putting this as a routine, is the ability to self-soothe and have downtime without any tech. One of our daughters can do that a little bit with painting, but we haven't been great in giving them tools to have downtime, which is not with tech. I think that's really important and probably one of the things that's a little bit missing for our kids. So, yeah, how do you self-soothe away from just all the tasks you have to do, then jump on the internet or your phone, your device? What does that look like? So I would like to be better personally at working out how to build that into my kids' lives a bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that's true. That technology probably is used by our kids as like when things get hard or I can't be bothered or maybe like I'm just checking out and doing that. But I don't know. I still think people can do that with reading books. And is that any different? Like you can get addicted to anything as the thing that you are using to avoid
If it
just
comes
sitting
from,
with yourself.
yeah, that's a good question. If it comes from a place of avoidance, then whatever you do might not be any good. But the thing with, yeah, I'm not sure the harm can be as big with a book than it is with social media and a place where you are actually seeking approval, seeking something that other people might or might not give you, which a book is kind of a, like
Well, I think
a,
I
a
would. Sam and I probably differ on this a little bit, but I'd say the book doesn't give you dopamine like the internet does or social media does at the level. So you might get some dopamine from reading. This is the internet, social media dopamine. It's a different level and much more probably addictive. There can still be escapism in both, but I think they're different things, and that's a whole nother conversation really
yeah, of
around.
course. Is there anything else? Would you like to share something that we haven't discussed and you really wanted to talk about or share?
Just on the last conversation, I feel like I need to wrap it with this. At one point, Simon was putting his hand on my leg, like, you're getting intense. And I think, oh, I am getting intense. Why am I intense? But I'm like, oh, this is my protector who is stepping in right now to be very clear about what I'm doing so that I feel okay. Because the truth is that underneath that, I actually have no idea. And I am worried. And there are no answers here.
Well, there are
And,
some.
well, kind of, but this is a hard thing to parent through at the moment.
I would say there's no answers. I'd say they're just not easy.
No, I would say it's complicated.
Yeah, same thing.
And all I know from all the stuff I've done in Parent TV, all the healing work I've done and everything, is that I am choosing to believe and trust that my kids are going to be okay. And I'm going to act like that's true. And if I do that, it will become true. Like, it
But
sounds crazy, but
I
I'm
raised
like,
I went a bit like that then. I was like, that, so I would like
because I've cared and I've tried.
Yeah.
Because I've cared and I've tried.
yeah, right. Not just they're going to be okay no matter what I do. Yeah.
I've cared and tried.
Yeah.
Like, I have cared, really I have, and I have tried. It hasn't been perfect. It could have been better. But I have thought about it. I have implemented things. I have talked to them. Like, I have done things that are not perfect. And I still feel a little bit of terror about the whole situation when it comes to witnessing my children on these devices. My son, I freak out and I have to resist letting that lead, because then I will start leading from fear and panic, and that's not good for anybody. And I just have to choose love, and I have to choose trust, and I have to choose that I have tried and that I have cared and that my kids are going to be okay. And I'm going to believe that, and then I believe they will be. But if I start thinking they're not going to be okay and I move into panic and freak out and protector mode and I come at them with that, then that is going to also make them think something's really wrong here. I'm not okay. Mum's acting like this isn't okay. Mum's acting like I'm not okay. It must be because I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And that's where we start to build a story in our kids that there's something wrong with them and there's a problem and they should be worried, as opposed to like, you're fine and it's okay and we're working through this together and everyone's in it, and come and talk to me if you need to, and we're doing the best we can and it will be okay. And I'm going to trust that, and you need to trust that, and you are more than capable of figuring this out, and we're here to help you with that. So I'm a really big believer in the energy that we bring to this needs to be, we've got you, we can help you, you've got you, it's messy, we're in it together, let's not panic. You've got everything you need to be a successful adult. it's going to be a bit messy, but we will get there, and you're not on your own in this.
Okay, so as you're navigating into troubled waters, which is today's state of technology and so many companies looking at getting our kids' attention, so kind of navigating in troubled waters, but acting as more as Magellan, kind of optimistic, like there's gonna be storm and everything, but as you say, like I trust you and it's gonna be fine. We are gonna make it to the other way. Thank you for saying all this. I don't know if Simon, you wanted to wrap up the conversation.
I think I'm learning to try my best to not act out of fear, but act out of, I know it's a cliche and I don't like the cliche, but love or being proactive. Because I often act out of fear in terms of the internet. Oh, it's bad, it's going to do all these things to you. But yeah, so instead of trying to think about how am I being proactive, how am I being, yeah, just on the front foot rather than the reactionary fear-based idea. Kind of Sam talked about. And also in the process, having some self-compassion as well. Like, I'm doing my best. I'm trying really hard here. It's not perfect. If I have self-compassion, I'll maybe act less out of fear. And that goes for parenting too, right? Not just the tech stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is there any specific piece of content that you would recommend to parents that has changed the way you are parenting your kids or that's helping you? Is there something you would like to share?
Like, I'm not saying this because my wife made the documentary, but Scene is actually really good.
I can
So
confirm.
I'm not plugging it because it's Sam's doco, but I actually think it's really good and really helpful framework for thinking about, yeah, that self-compassion stuff, that it's not finger pointing, it's actually thinking about what you do and how you do it. I think it's really good framework for approaching this.
And I would say there's a program called Circle of Security. It actually features in the documentary.
Okay.
That
Is it American?
it is American. It was very significant for me personally. I had done Parent TV for 10 years, like all the parenting things. And when I did that, I was like, how have I missed this all? Like, why didn't I do this sooner? And that program for me really helps you understand, I say who children are, but it's actually who humans are. So it's who we are too. And what are the actual baseline needs of our children that it's our job as the parents to be showing up and meeting. And it's the ones we've missed. Like, it's pure magic in terms of, I think as parents, the noise that's coming at us from children and culture is that, it's the prams that our kids have and, the baby reveal that we do, the gender reveal, like all this stuff and how, what we buy them, the latest phone, the latest clothes, the shows they're watching, the birthday parties they're having, as the things that we think are our children's needs, to make sure that those things are like being met. And what we've missed is that our kids' needs are actually comfort me, delight in me, organise my feelings, watch over me, play with me.
I think the thing with Circle Security is that when you do it, it's not actually new or radical. It actually reorientates you to what you actually know already instinctually in here.
That's
And to
the
get focused on meeting those needs of our children, and that's where the behaviour starts to shift. That's where you go, oh, hold on a second, I've been so focused on the material things, we've missed the invisible things, the inside things that are actually the most critical things of all. And we've forgotten.
So Scene and Circle of Security.
And Circles of Security, is it a program you have to attend or follow? How does it work?
It is, but you can do them online. So it
Okay.
is like an 8-week program. I just highly recommend it. Like, it's worth the effort. I'm like, yep, it's effort. It's 8 weeks. You got to show up and do something. But I'm like, it's totally worth the effort. Like,
Okay, awesome.
choose your pain. Don't do it and don't learn that and deal with the consequences of it. Or just show up for 8 weeks and learn that and allow the beauty and the teaching of that to transform, like, your story. So it's just, yeah.
Perfect. I will definitely check it out. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Not less than I thought. We didn't really fight.
Okay, well, you've been great, the two of you. I thought you would disagree way more than what you did. So honestly, it was,
Oh, you want some more disagreement, do you?
well, we could do another one where we can get, maybe
No,
we
it's all
could, we
good.
didn't know each other yet so much, but thanks a lot for doing this. There's a lot of wisdom in all the things that you've said. Some have really resonated a lot. Thank you